What if all the chaos that you're seeing in the world right now is not proof that the world is falling apart, but proof that you are being asked to become the CEO of your own life? Welcome back to the Full Body Yes podcast, my loves. I am Shiri, I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that has been everywhere in my own life and with my clients, and that is self leadership in a world that is changing faster than ever. Now, this episode is going to be for you if you felt any of these following things recently. So maybe you're watching the news, social media, or even just the energy of the world, and you're thinking, what on earth is going on? Maybe you feel this pull to do things differently, but part of you is still looking around going, can someone just tell me what to do? Is all of this pointless? Is the world just going to fall apart in a minute? Or maybe like you're just spiritual, you're intuitive, you're self aware, but there's still this subtle hope that if you just stay high vibe, then life will rearrange itself without you needing to make bold, uncomfortable moves. Today, I want to give you a clear framework for what this time is actually asking you to do. How to understand the big consciousness and system shift without spiraling into fear or doubt. Why the new paradigm is 50% energetic and 50% physical. We are not hiding in your journal anymore, and we are not hustling like crazy anymore. And what it really means to be the leader of your own life and how to start doing that today. Yes, I will be giving you some incredible tips and tools, practical ones on how to get there from today. So make yourself a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And let's start. So let's start with the obvious. The world we are living in today does not feel like the world we lived in even 5 years ago, right? Like as I am recording this, it is December of 2025. COVID started just over 5 years ago, and the world has been through so much since then, right? We've had the global pandemic, we've had several wars, we've had this financial crisis, so many things happening at once. And everyone is kind of asking the same question, like, is the world falling apart? We are in a time of a massive shift on every level. So let's start with the frequency and consciousness of the world. People are waking up. People are questioning, they're wanting more meaning, more alignment, more truth. And if you are listening to this, I'm sure you are one of those who have woken up. I have rarely met someone who just grew up with this, whose parents were very spiritual and aware and awake when they were growing up. It is very rare. So if you are listening to this, you likely have woken up to the world, to frequency, to consciousness work. And this is why you're here. And this is happening for more and more people. Then there's also the whole politics things, right? Like narratives are clashing. People are starting to realize that there's a lot of censorship. It's becoming more visible. People are realizing how much they've handed their power away, and they're starting to question what their leaders are telling them, what the big organizations are telling them. And then there's also the money, resources, systems. So there's this financial instability, supply chain issues, job uncertainty. AI is coming in and taking so many people's jobs, tech. All of that is moving at a speed that our nervous systems are not used to. And the world has not moved this fast in such a short amount of time in a really long time, and I want to say ever. Now, you can look at all of that and think everything is falling apart. And especially if you are listening to this, you are likely a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you might be thinking, am I being smart by still running my own business? Like, am I crazy? Should I just go and get something secure when the world feels so insecure right now? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. The only person you can trust nowadays and ever, but especially now, is yourself. So don't go anywhere. But either way, you can either look at it like that, like, is everything falling apart? Or you can look at it and think everything that was built on low frequency, scarcity, control, lack, secrecy, keeping people small, everything, the whole old world that was built on that is now being shaken loose. And that is how I see it. The old paradigm was a tiny group of people hoarding information and secrets. So the old consciousness was built on the idea that power should be concentrated in the hands of a few, whether, governments, leaders, religious authorities, some elite institutions, corporations, or very exclusive spiritual groups. And those organizations and people operated from a worldview of people cannot handle the truth, or if we share what we know, we lose power. Information must be controlled to maintain order. And spiritually, of course, this was a very low frequency reality shaped by fear, by competition, by scarcity of knowledge, and by taking people's power away. We as humans are so incredibly powerful. We are all born with incredible intuition. But when we are told that we shouldn't trust it, that we should trust external people and they know what's better for us, we start losing that. We doubt our own intuition, our own power, and then we start losing that. So all of this meant that regular people were not told the full truth about their bodies, their energy, their health, their intuition, their potential. Spiritual teachings were really watered down or hidden. I spoke a couple months ago here about The Secret and the Power, written by Rhonda Byrne. And while those books were great at waking people up to the power of manifestation, there was a lot that was being kept out of them. And again, that's why it didn't work for so many people. So people got into the hype, tried to manifest different things. It didn't work. And then it made them think, okay, this whole thing doesn't actually work, made them doubt. And that was on purpose. I'm not saying necessarily by Rhonda Byrne, but that was orchestrated by those powerful institutions and people that we talked about. And all of that also meant that success frameworks and methods of success were kept behind closed doors, and healing modalities, consciousness teachings, and deeper layers of reality were being gate kept. And as I said, this was not an accident. This was a paradigm structured around keeping people small, keeping them obedient, keeping them dependent, and keeping them away from their power. When consciousness is low, people don't question the system. They simply comply. They follow because they've never been given the tools to do anything else. Now, in this old world that we are now moving away and shifting away from, and in this old paradigm, systems were built on lack and limitation. So every major system, economic, educational, medical, corporate, political, was designed with the assumption that resources are limited, opportunities are limited, success is limited, safety is limited, and power is limited. And in a lack-based system such as this one, everything becomes a competition, right? Not everyone can succeed. Not everyone can be healthy. Not everyone can have money. Not everyone gets to do work that they love and actually earn nicely from it. The entire structure depended on people believing that there isn't enough for them, right? There isn't enough. They can't have, if they have more, other people will have less. And if other people have more, it means that they have to have less. So they thought that they must work harder. They need to shrink. They need to accept less. And they just need to keep themselves in line and small. And this created burnout, massive burnout as a normal state, especially in Western countries. Comparison, so much comparison, fear of failure, fear of being seen, fear of taking risks, fear of outgrowing your role that society designated for you. And when you believe resources are limited, you also believe that you have to trade your time, your energy, your power, and your authenticity in order to survive and live somewhat well in this lifetime. That is the old frequency. Another thing that was happening in this old frequency and this old world was you were being trained to fit into those systems without asking too many questions. So many people don't realize that your entire childhood at home, at school, in society was essentially an orientation program teaching you how to be a compliant participant in that old paradigm, in that old society, and in that old world. You were taught to not question authority, to not think that you know better, to not trust your intuition, or to not even believe that intuition exists, right? To not make other people uncomfortable, to not dream too big or be too big, to not disrupt the system, and to not rely on yourself, right? Rely on experts, on doctors, on leaders, on governments, on institutions, on rules. And you were rewarded for being quiet, agreeable, predictable, easy to manage, essentially for being like agreeable. And you were punished emotionally or socially for having a unique voice, for thinking differently, for challenging the narrative, for following your own timeline or your own desires, and for doing what felt right for you and for your soul. And this conditioning created adults, society that second guesses everything, right? People that second guess themselves, people that overthink, people that look outward for permission, people that feel like they need to be told the right way to do things, created a huge fear of breaking the rules. And it created outsourcing every important decision to someone else that people see as better than them and knowing more than them. But now we are shifting into an era where nothing hidden can stay hidden. And I'm sure you can already feel this. People see through manipulation and lies so much faster. Truths surface quicker. I'm even thinking about like Hollywood and the whole thing with P. Diddy, right? And all of these people in Hollywood were like managed to keep all of that under the rug for so many years, but that's not happening anymore. People are more aware of the truth and they can see the truth faster. And in this new world, intuition, people, or more and more people are becoming aware of their intuition, are training their intuition, and it can cut through the noise because once you have intuition that you can trust and that you have trained, you really don't need anyone else. You can truly know what's best for you at any given moment. In this new world, systems that were based on lies are slowly collapsing, and authority figures who used to be untouchable are being questioned, right? I'm thinking about Prince Andrew. I live in the UK. He essentially just recently was stripped of all of his titles. I think he even was kicked out of his home. And that is just one of many figures who used to be untouchable because they had a lot of power, a lot of money, a lot of connections. Now they are touchable. It's still not 100% there. There are so many people that still have done very questionable things and they're still not being questioned as much, but it is happening more and more and more. And this is because the frequency of the planet can no longer sustain secrecy. Transparency becomes the new norm because people are awakening. Consciousness is rising. Authenticity becomes magnetic. We are now magnetized to people who are authentic more than anyone and more than anything. And, we used to see all of these, again, celebrities, singers, actors, and admire them. And nowadays people are realizing those people who are not authentic, they're just not attracted to them. They're not magnetized to them anymore because their consciousness is generally higher and the overall general consciousness is higher, which is making people wake up even if they're not super interested in spirituality. It's just the general collective consciousness. So in this new world that is starting to emerge and be built, information wants to be shared, true information, real information. Knowledge wants to flow freely and not be owned by a few people. And power becomes something that the masses, right? That just us simple people understand that we have. We have the power to create our reality. We have the power to see how to respond to things. We have the power to know what's good for us. And this is why so many traditional structures are now cracking, because the vibration of truth, of authenticity, doesn't allow the secrecy and gatekeeping anymore. Now, in this new world, we have this energetic integrity. So, in the old paradigm, manipulation was the foundation of marketing, of leadership, of politics, religion, relationships, education. Manipulation really thrives in low frequency because people cannot feel the misalignment, right? If their intuition is turned off, they cannot see and identify manipulation. But as consciousness rises, what happens is you can feel when energy is off. You can feel when someone's lying. You can feel when a leader is fake, when a business doesn't have integrity, when a certain narrative that you might hear about in the news doesn't feel exactly right, or when someone's energy doesn't match the words that they say. Energetic integrity becomes a requirement in today's world. It's not a luxury. It's not something that you can just give up on. If you want to succeed in this new paradigm, in this new world, you need integrity. So in this new paradigm, you cannot bypass people's intuition. You cannot fake energy and truth, and manipulation will collapse your credibility instantly. If you try to manipulate, people can pick up on that in an instant, and you will lose your credibility. And this is creating right now, as we speak, a world where authenticity becomes a huge competitive advantage. And we have talked about authenticity, about using your voice, about opening your throat chakra in this podcast. And it is something that we are still going to go back to. But authenticity is now the biggest advantage, especially as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, because as I said, people can see through the bullshit, right? They can see if you are being true or not. And people who are still trying to succeed through manipulation, they will just collapse. So authenticity becomes a huge advantage in today's world, especially also with AI, because AI can just create like content for anyone, blog posts, captions, podcast episodes, whatever that is. So everything is just becoming a bit dull, right? Because robots are writing it. So if you are choosing to use your own true voice and to tell your stories and experiences, which AI cannot give you, right? It is your own human experiences. If you choose to use them and to share them in the right context, that gives you a huge advantage as a brand owner, entrepreneur, business owner. Alignment becomes your strategy essentially, and transparency becomes how you lead in this new paradigm. And this is really good news because it finally rewards people who are genuinely connected to themselves, to their purpose, to their soul path, and to their integrity. And all of my clients are people who are exactly that, who don't want to just do what their business coaches are telling them to do and what business schools have told them to do. They want to carve their own path and they want to truly connect what their soul wants to do in this lifetime. And a third feature of this new world is self leadership over blind obedience. So we are moving into a frequency where you must become the authority in your own life. You have to learn to trust yourself before you trust anyone else. You have to make your own decisions and not follow other people. You can consult if you want, but you have to know how to make your own decisions. You have to stop outsourcing your intuition and decision making. And you have to lead yourself before you lead others. And when I say that I coach leaders, so a lot of people might think of leaders, again, the old paradigm, leaders were politicians, were, people with huge teams. The way that I see leaders is, first of all, people who lead themselves, who take responsibility and who lead themselves, and they make themselves the example so that they can then lead others in the same way. Now, blind obedience, just following other people and rules blindly, is a low frequency state. And that is what the old world has been or was built on, and essentially asked you to disconnect from your body, from your intuition, let other people's voices be louder than your own, and just accept life as it is, not as it could be. Just thinking that it is what it is. I should just be happy with what I have. And I cannot really create a different reality. But the energetic shift, the frequency shift that is happening right now is really forcing you to question those old patterns, to take responsibility, to step into your authority, and essentially just become sovereign of your own reality. So this new paradigm is a world that is going to be built by people who think for themselves, who move with intuition, who are willing to take risks, who lead with integrity, who operate both from energy and from physical action, and who no longer wait for permission. What I want you to understand at this point is that the systems that were built for the old world, the one that we grew up in as children, that our parents, grandparents grew up in, those systems cannot carry you into the new world that is starting to emerge like a phoenix, right? So if it seems now like the world is falling apart, it's only because this new world is emerging. you have to become the authority. You have to become the leader, and you have to become your own system, the system of your own life, because no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. What's coming to mind to me right now is people in the 50s or even like in the 70s, 80s, where I'm just thinking about like the States, men could just have like a job in a factory, and that could finance the whole house, like the partner, the wife, the children. One salary in a factory could actually make them live kind of comfortably, and that is why they were kept small, even though so many people could do so many bigger things. But now that is not possible anymore, and people are crying about the cost of living and how you have to have two salaries. Well, great, you're realizing that you cannot rely on external systems and that no one is coming to save you is actually giving you the power to do what your soul came here to do. And so many people in previous generations did not fulfill their soul pull and their soul potential. And then what happens? They just have to come back for another lifetime to try and learn the lessons that they were trying to learn in previous lifetimes, but they just couldn't, because if you are not on your soul pull, soul path, and if you're not doing what your soul came here to do, you are just going to go back up without learning the lessons that you were trying to learn. So the fact that now things seem difficult is actually working in our favor. It is forcing us to see the truth and to follow what our soul wants to do. So no one is coming to save you, but the version of you who leads themselves absolutely can. So the collapse of all of these systems that we grew up on is not a punishment. It's an invitation to stop living as a cog in someone else's machine and start living as the person who can control their own reality. Now, this doesn't mean ignoring what's going on in the world. It means looking at it and reading it differently. Instead of the world is unsafe, we're doomed, why even bother? I want you to try looking at it as the world is rearranging. And if I stay passive, I will be pulled by it and I might suffer. But if I lead myself, if I work with universal spiritual laws that I talk about here a lot, for example, the law of reflection, the law of balance, if I lead myself in this way, I get to co-create what comes next and what this next level paradigm is going to look like for me and for the rest of the world. And that brings me to the heart of today's episode, finally. This new world requires a new way of creating. Now, there's this belief that has been so popular in spiritual circles, and honestly, it's one of the most disempowering beliefs out there. And you've probably heard some version of it. If I just raise my vibration, if I just meditate more, if I just stay high vibe all of the time, everything will work itself out. I even think about a very, very popular manifestation podcast, which I loved back in the day, where the host always said, well, business success is 90% energetics and 10% strategy. Well, let me tell you a secret. That is not true. And as you know, I believe in energy. I believe in frequency, in the quantum field. I literally, as we talk, I am running live the program God's Favor, which is all about raising your frequency for 40 days every single day and rooting in that frequency, making it your baseline so that you can call things into your reality more easily. So I absolutely do believe in all of these things 1,000%. But the piece that often gets missed is you are an energetic being in a physical body. Manifestation is not meant to bypass the body, action, structure, responsibility. Now, this new paradigm that people are finally waking up to is not 100% hustle and 0% energy like most people in the world have been used to doing, and men in Western culture and all of that. Or it's also not 100% energy and 0% action. It is exactly 50-50. 50% energetic, 50% physical. Now, let me make this really practical for you so you understand. So, for example, let's talk about health, right? You cannot journal, I am healthy, I am vibrant, and visualize a glowing aura and do your affirmations in the mirror and then live on 5 hours of sleep, random snacks, no protein, zero movement, and expect your body to magically match the vision. The energetic work matters massively, but it has to be matched with physical choices like nourishing food, like movement, like rest. That is the 50-50 rule, right? Or let's talk about relationships, for example. You cannot sit in meditation and sending love to your partner and script your dream relationship in your journal and then avoid every difficult conversation with your partner, never set boundaries, never be vulnerable, refuse to look at your own patterns, or never go on dates if you are looking, right? You cannot do all of that and then expect the relationship to become incredible or to find an incredible relationship if you're not actually taking any action to go and find that relationship that you are wanting to find. So again, the energetic side matters, the intention, the inner work, the healing, but you still need to communicate, to take responsibility, to show up consistently, to make decisions and take actions that honor you and the other side, the thing that you want to achieve. Or if we talk about business and purpose, this is where I see so many highly conscious people get stuck. You might feel your purpose so deeply, have really powerful meditations and visions and do visualizations and energy clearings and quantum leaping, all of the things. But if you do not, for example, sell actively, let's say you are an online coach, service provider, and you only actually talk about your offer once a week or not even that often, or if you do not have a sales page and ways for people to find you and pay you money, if you do not increase the price to a price that actually is worth your time, if you don't tell people about what you do, if you don't build structures and backend systems, then you're essentially running a very, very beautiful, very high frequency business that only exists in your head. And it's not that you are being punished by the universe. It's just that you are not giving your vision that is in your head anything physical or not enough physical things to anchor into. And you might tell me, oh, but I do have an Instagram page and I do sell once a week and I do have a website. Well, I want you to think, do you actually do 50% energetic work, 50% physical work on the level that will actually bring you results or will actually bring you your next level results that you are wanting and you deserve? Think about that and be honest with yourself. So I want you to start asking yourself for every area of life, what am I doing on an energetic level and what am I doing on the physical level? If it's all hustle and action and no energetic work, then you will burn out completely. And if it is all soul and energy, but there's no physical action, your reality will stay very, very similar, if not deteriorate. So the new world requires people who can do both. They can do the frequency and they can make moves, and they do both on a high level, and they match 50% of that and 50% off that. Now, let's talk about the lesson underneath all of this. You are the primary authority now. The era of outsourcing your life is over. Most of us were raised and conditioned to believe that other people know better than me. I cannot trust my own judgment. My job is to fit in, not to lead, not to break rules. And think about how this shows up in different areas. In health, it can be ignoring your body's signals because some doctor or an article or an influencer said that it's fine, right? Or pushing through exhaustion because that's what successful people do. They just hustle. Now, in finances and in business, it could look like forcing yourself into strategies that feel completely misaligned because you are told that that's what works in this industry. It can be saying yes to things that your whole body is saying no to, like different investments, for example, because you are scared, because people are telling you this is the right thing to do. Now, in relationships, it could look like staying in a friendship or a romantic relationship that drain you because your family likes them or it looks good from the outside. Or it could look like letting other people define what a good relationship should look like for you. It can really get in your head. Like you could be in a relationship that is really good for you, but other people can really get in your head on whether that is actually a good enough relationship because there are some, ideal social norms about what is acceptable. And just in general, in your life direction and soul pull, it can be waiting for permission, waiting for signs, waiting until a coach, a psychic, a mentor, or a partner confirms what you already know. This is the old paradigm of self. I don't know, they know. I can see, they can. My inner voice is not trustworthy. Their authority is. Now, I want you to understand that in this new world, what you need to be thinking and drilling into yourself is I do know. I might not have all the details, but I have the most important information because I'm the one living inside this life, inside this body, inside this system. You have insider information that no one else has. And that is your intuition. That is your inner wisdom and inner knowing that, as I said before, we are all born with, but we are taught from a young age not to trust it. When really, when you are connected to your intuition, you know everything that's good for you, everything that's not, and you get to make incredible decisions without having to rely on anyone else. And it is something that when you develop your intuition to a place where it is fully trustworthy, you work on it with people, with spiritual teachers that have been doing it for decades and have learned it from generations before them. When you get to the point where your intuition is so honed in, then no mentor, no expert, and no system can really access that incredible knowledge the way that you do. So when I talk about self-leadership, I don't mean becoming hyper independent and never asking anyone for help or advice. I don't mean ignoring experts, ignoring research, or ignoring guidance. I just mean that your inner voice, your intuition, is the first place you go for direction, and it is the final authority on what you actually choose. So it's kind of like you sandwich it, right? You go to it for direction. And if you feel like you need extra guidance, extra support, because like we don't know everything, right? Like we can decide for ourselves. But for example, I can talk about, I'm not like the best marketer out there, right? And I do have very good, incredible intuition because I have been training it for so long. But that doesn't mean that I would never hire a marketing person for my team because marketing might not be my strongest suit. However, when that marketing expert gives me an idea, that is when I can go and ask my higher self and ask source and ask intuition, is this the best thing for my business? Am I going to be happy with this in the long run? Do you understand the difference here? Do you understand the nuance? You get to make the decisions, but you can still go to experts for getting ideas and getting directions. But you also make that final decision about what it's going to be. You can absolutely collect information from others, but your job is then to run it through your own system and ask, does this resonate with my values? Does this fulfill one or more of my soul purposes and my soul goals? Is this something that my soul wants to experience? Is this going to expand me or contract me? If I were the leader of my life, which you are, by the way, would I choose this? And if the answer is no, then your work is to practice honoring that no, even if everyone around you thinks that it's a yes. That is what I had when I decided to leave university in my secure path in academia, right? Everyone thought I was crazy. I was doing so well. I already had a teaching position in university, and it would have been very easy for me to get another more permanent position once I finished my PhD. That would have been so easy, so secure. I probably would have enjoyed it to a degree, but it did not feel like what my soul came here to do. And now, having trained my intuition, I definitely know that I was right. And that was not what my soul came here to do. And I am so proud and so grateful of Shiri a few years ago, who decided to make that incredibly brave move, who did not know what the future held for her, but she just knew that it held more than being a university professor who lives her life in a tiny office in a university in central London. I knew that my life, I came here to do something else, right? And this doesn't mean that being a university professor is bad. There are people in this world whose souls came here because that's what they want to experience and that's what's going to develop them. But that was just not the right route for me. And I am so grateful that I decided to go away and start my own business, even though everyone thought I was crazy and even though I could not see how it was going to pan out. And that is self-leadership, right? Honoring the no when you feel like it's a no, when you feel like it's not really what your soul wants to do in the long run. And again, feeling is one thing, checking with a highly trained intuition is quite another thing. So I always recommend training your intuition. And if you work one-on-one with me in a long-term capacity, in a mentorship, that is something that we work on a lot together. When you learn to honor that no, then that is huge self leadership. Now, let's bring this down to earth. I know I promised you some practical tools today. So I want to give you a couple of concrete practices that you can start using today to step into this 50-50, this self-led paradigm that we talked about. So first of all, pick one area of your life that you really care about right now. So that could be your business or soulful career. That can be a relationship. That can be family. It can be your health and your body. It could be money. It could be your spiritual growth. It could be a passion or a hobby. And now write down your vision in one or two sentences. So for example, I want a business that supports me financially and feels deeply aligned. I want a relationship where I feel safe, chosen, and inspired. I want a body that feels strong, energized, and loved. And then underneath, I want you to split the page into two columns, energetic and physical. And in the energetic column, I want you to ask, what inner shifts does this version of me have? How do they think? What do they believe about themselves and about the world? What emotions are they able to feel and hold? What practices support their frequency? So this is energetic practices, right? Like meditation, breath work, prayer, energy work, journaling, whatever is your thing that you feel good with. And in the physical column, I want you to ask, what does their calendar look like? What boundaries do they set? What conversations do they have? What skills have they learned? How do they move? How do they eat, sleep, work, sell, create, dress? And then this is the important part. This is where you actually integrate it. I want you to choose one thing from each column to do this week. Not 25 things, okay? One from one side and one from the other side. And this is you embodying that 50-50 rule this week. It's doing the inner upgrades and the outer upgrades at the same time. Now, another practice, which is, if you want a fun but maybe confronting little challenge, try this. For the next week, you are not allowed to ask anyone else what you should do about your life. You can still talk to people, you can still receive information, but anytime you feel the urge to ask for permission, get reassurance, check if something is sensible, I want you to pause. And then instead, I want you to ask yourself, if I trusted myself 10% more right now, what would I choose? I'm not telling you to trust yourself 100% more right now. That will freak out your system. And that is why you need to train your intuition. And that takes a while, but just 10%. And then act on that. So instead of asking someone else, ask yourself again, I'm just going to repeat that question. If I trusted myself just 10% more right now, what would I choose? And then act on that. So what this does is it exposes where you automatically hand your power away. It builds that self-trust muscle. The more you do that, the stronger it gets. And it also shows and proves to you that your world does not collapse without other people's advice, and it does not collapse when you lead yourself. It might be uncomfortable at first. Your brain will probably scream, but what if I get it wrong? And what if they disapprove? And what if I end up wasting time or money or energy? And that's exactly the point. You are not practicing perfect choices. You are practicing being the person who chooses for themselves. And trust me, at the end of the day, that is so much more powerful and that matters so much more than any short-term quote unquote losses. So overall, to wrap this up, I want you to understand that you were not dropped into this specific period of history by accident, and especially not if you are listening to this podcast and if you are a person who is spiritually aware or is spiritually curious. The parts of you that crave that truth, that integrity, that alignment, that depth, and that impact, those parts are not a liability in this new world. They are exactly what is needed and what you are being asked to bring with you in order to succeed in this new paradigm and in this new world. We need more people who can feel what's happening behind the headlines that you see in the news, who can hold a higher vision while still doing practical things like sending the email, like raising the price, like saying no to things that don't feel aligned, like resting, like moving, like creating, and people that are willing to be guided from the inside out, and also people that have that understanding that all of this low frequency talk of being running out of money, running out of energy, all of that, that is only true if you buy into it. And people who do not buy into it, who understand that they have the power inside of them, that's you. You would not be listening to this otherwise. Now, as I am recording this, and as I mentioned earlier, we are actually in the middle of the first live round of God's Favorite, which is my 40-day experience to raise your frequency and let the universe surprise you, where for 40 days, every single day, you do a heart opening love frequency practice. So you choose one out of three practices that I give you, and you do the same one every single day for 40 days. And in addition to that, I take you throughout the 40 days, I take you through the stages of creation according to Kabbalah, all the way from intention and energy down to physical manifestation. So every single day, there is a new audio transmission from me, a new intention, new reflection questions, a new embodiment action. Because as we talked about, even when it is a program that talks about frequency, every single day I will ask you to also do a physical action because we are living in a 50-50 world, and some closing for the end of the day. So this is 40 days of incredible frequency work to elevate your frequency and then elevate your actions at the same time. And today it is only day 2, and I already got 2 incredible messages from clients inside. So just thought I would quickly read them to you. First of all, I got this message yesterday on day 1, and it says, Shiri, I just had my first client sign up after a dry spell right after I listened to your audio and did my reflections for today. Just wanted to tell you this because I felt like a different person after the practice today, and it all felt so divinely orchestrated. I can't wait for the rest of it. And then today on day 2, I got these following messages from a beautiful client inside. Oh my God, the vortex is no joke. Day 2 here in Australia. She is based in Australia. And everyone in my life, including my ex, is treating me with so much love and respect. I am literally reading and rereading messages to check that I'm not dreaming. My sons can't stop hugging me. People are messaging me out of the blue to tell me what a special human I am and how lucky they are to know me. What? And then later on, she says, it is truly magical. So excited for the next 38 days and beyond. Thank you so much, Shiri. This was the perfect way to close a year of very dedicated and intense inner work for me. Your prompts so far have been so light and expansive. I love it. Thank you. So I love receiving these messages. I am honestly feeling a bit red in the cheeks because I am not used to just shouting my success in public. But do you know what? Us leaders in the new world, we need to do that, especially when it is such high frequency work and when this work can literally change lives so quickly. So these are just 2 wins from the first 2 days of God's Favorite, and there are 38 days left. So whether you are listening to this in real time or in the future, God's Favorite will be open for you to do either as a live round or to do it at your own time whenever you choose to purchase it. But honestly, I would not sleep on it because the sooner you start, literally, as you see, day 1, day 2, things already start shifting in your favor massively. And in this new world, we need people who understand frequency work, who can do frequency work, who can elevate their frequency, elevate their embodied action at the same time, and operate as leaders of their reality. And all of those concepts that we talked about today, like inner truth, alignment, authenticity, boundaries, breaking the rules in a good way, all of that, all of those things are things that we talk about throughout the 40 days. So if you are listening to this, I highly recommend getting the program God's Favorite. That is really the first step to become the leader of your own reality. And that is upgrading your frequency to the frequency that is required to really see results and really make your intentions become reality. Make your soul intentions, what your soul wants to achieve in this lifetime, take it all the way from energy into a physical reality and physical manifestation. And if you want to learn more about God's favorite, I have the link in the show notes. And you can also go back to the previous podcast episode slash YouTube video, depending when you or where you are watching this or listening to this. And over there, I give you a sneak peek into that program. I highly recommend going and listening. And this program is truly life changing. I did it myself a couple of times, and every single time I put myself in a 40-day vortex, miracles happened. People responded to me differently. Clients responded to me differently. I got sums of money out of nowhere. I had the highest cash month in business last month when I did it. So beautiful things happen when you learn how to work with frequency. And that is extremely needed in this new paradigm and in this new world. And if you want to go even deeper, I invite you to book a session with me or an intuitive read with me. The links are in the show notes. Or if you are really ready to go all in and become leader of your life, leader of your business, and truly operate from this new paradigm of authenticity, of trust, of leading yourself, of learning how to work with universal laws, I invite you to apply to work one-on-one with me for long-term mentorship, where we also train your intuition. As I told you, intuition is the most powerful tool you will have in this lifetime, especially as a leader, a person who leads themselves and a person who leads others. So if you are interested in hearing more about long-term mentorship, message me, DM me the word mentorship on Instagram at Shiri Leader, or you can email me at hello@shirileader.com and I can tell you more about it. Of course, no pressure. There's never any pressure in anything that I do. You won't be pressurized into buying anything. You won't be chased after. So if you want to learn more about it, feel free to reach out and I'm more than happy to tell you more about it. Now, if you want to share your insights or what came up for you from listening to this episode, come hang out with me on Instagram and send me a message. Let me know what came up for you. I genuinely love hearing how you are integrating this work. And if you know someone who's been feeling overwhelmed by everything happening in the world, but you know they're meant to lead in this new world and in this new paradigm, send them this episode. Let them know that they're not crazy. They're just early, and it is actually perfect that they are living through this period of time where everything is breaking and falling apart in order to make space for this new world where, those of us who are ready and who learn how to work with the universe, with the real universe, right? The real deep truths, not the one that we've been told over the years. We are the ones who are going to be able to make the most out of these shifts. So send this to people that you feel like could benefit from this. If you really enjoyed this episode, I would also love if you could maybe share it on your story and tag me. And I will, of course, reshare you back on my Instagram story. I would love it if you can also rate us at 5 stars, hopefully either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you are watching this on YouTube, if you could subscribe, like, maybe leave me a little comment saying what you loved the most. And remember that, yes, the world is shifting, but so are you. And if you are early to the party and you know how to handle the party and how to dance in this party, things are going to work out perfectly for you. So be the one leading that shift in your own life. Thank you so much for being here. I love you all so much, and I'll speak to you in the next episode. Bye.